sense from Alexander that there is something out there called the Holdovers, or was that even sooner than that? Like, how long were you aware that
I can't
this
remember when were you starting to write this thing? When did you have like a first draft?
About 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, so that's when he said, I have this thing, and you told me it was inspired by a French movie, which sounded kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then you sent me a first draft of it, I guess, or a draft of it, and I thought it was great. I mean, I would have done anything you wanted me to do, but it was great.
So Alexander, the Holdovers, this is only the second time you're directing a film that is from a screenplay written by somebody else, although I know the way it works is very collaborative with you and your writers. And then, you know, one of the few times, another one also being with Paul, where it's not in Omaha, which has been a hallmark of yours. What for you was the origin of Holdovers? You know, I was looking at your histories. I know Paul went to Choate, which is a school not unlike this one, and I know that you have said years ago when people were saying, you know, what happens if filmmaking doesn't work out, you were saying, maybe I'll be a teacher at a private school.
I still think that.
You do? Yeah.
You know, fall back on teaching at some point, sure, why not?
Well, so Holdover specifically, this is what was the beginning of it for you?
I saw it, so about a dozen years ago, I was at the Telluride Film Festival, and I saw a lesser-known film by the great director Marcel Pagnol, 1935, Merluz, and it has the same setup. Teacher with wonky eye at boarding school, all boys boarding school, takes care of them over Christmas break, develops a special relationship with one of them. And I don't even remember the story that well after that, but that setup stayed with me. Like, that's a good idea for a movie. That's a movie I'd like to see another version of, or maybe make another version of. So it was on my list of like film ideas, and then I hadn't done anything with it because I thought, oh God, I'm not from that world. I got to go out there and research it and get into those schools and get the details, like the reality from which you could make a story. But I hadn't done it, and then I got a pilot script by David Hemmingson, which took place in a boarding school. And I called him out of the blue and said, I've read your fine pilot, I don't want to make it, but would you consider writing something in that same world from an idea I'll give you? And he said yes, so that's how it came out.
Why specifically the 70s?
Well, we knew it had to be period because there are no more single-sex boarding schools. I think there's like one small all-girls school or something. So, you know, 40s, 50s, okay, 50s is Peter Weir territory, all right, 60s, how about 1970? So, I mean, an interesting time for cinema, an interesting time, you know, in the Vietnam War and the socio-political, cultural winds blowing through the moment would give the screenwriter stuff to deal with. You know, in as much as the war, to a greater or lesser extent, affects the three characters.
So the three principal holdovers are Paul Giamatti's character. Then number 2, Dominic Sessa, who had never been in front of a camera before. Where did you find this guy?
He was a senior at Deerfield Academy, one of the 5 schools where we shot the movie. So we meaning the casting director, Susan Shopmaker in New York, and I, we were going to get around to this at some point anyway. We just had, so she fielded about 800 auditions, and we didn't find the lead, at least to our satisfaction. So then we finally pulled the trigger on contacting the drama departments of those schools, which we were going to do anyway, even out of courtesy, like, you know, we like to be inclusive of the places where you're going to shoot. And there he was.
Then you've got Dave and Joy Randolph, who has been great, but primarily in broad comedic stuff up to this point. I mean, Dolomite Is My Name, and numerous others. What made you do something that you have done before, whether it's Will Forte in Nebraska, or there are other examples where somebody who's primarily known for comedy, you give them a shot.
Those are the better actors in my view.
Really?
Comic actors. people at least adept at comedy, because they're going to be able to do the emotion without drear. Still have some sense of rhythm and levity. You know, I still want my movies to be charming and entertaining, even with depressing shit in it. So you want actors that have comic chops just for this. But don't think that Paul Giamatti and Dave Vine are like comic actors. I mean, they're classically trained. They can, but because they can do comedy, they have been hired to play comedy often.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean, oh, well, this is such a surprise, it could be serious.
So, when you guys are back on set together for the first time in many years, did you find that the way the other one worked, or the way that you communicated together, or anything like that, had changed from Sideways, or was it pretty much stepping back into the way it was?
I'm curious, was I any better? Was I... You can say, I mean, was I better? Was it different? I don't know. From your point of view, was it any different? It wasn't any different to me.
It felt as though we had wrapped Sideways about a week
Yeah,
before.
exactly. It didn't really feel any different. No. Yeah.
Do you see any threads connecting Sideways and Holdovers? I might have a few, but I wonder what for you.
I don't know, but you didn't nothing was deliberate, was it?
I remember you reading an early draft of the Holdovers and saying, and maybe I apologize, and I'm sorry that there's some similarities maybe between Miles and he said, yeah, but I'm going to play this guy more like a prick.
Well, yeah, because I think, a guy who enjoys being a prick, too.
Curmudgeonly,
Yeah, a guy who enjoys being a prick, too. He has a good time being a prick. I mean, I think they didn't, they're similar guys at different stages of their lives, yeah. But, did you see things?
No. I love Sideways, so to me, to see you guys doing anything together again was thrilling. But this is another guy who is obviously a bit uncomfortable with the opposite sex.
This guy's really uncomfortable. I don't know that the guy's had a whole lot of actual experience with the opposite sex, so yeah, much more so than the other guy.
And swishes a little booze once in a while. But hey, that's a lot of characters in different stories, so it's only in the best way. But Alexander, I think on every one of your features, you have had the same editor, Kevin Tent, and something that people have remarked upon more on this movie, but I think it was there for Sideways and others. You guys, in the same way that you use in a number of your films voiceover narration, which a lot of people sort of assume is a thing of the past in movies, you guys also use dissolves to transition between scenes and time and whatever. Where did that begin with you guys? Because it's certainly prevalent in Holdovers.
It's like God. No beginning, no end. We've always dissolved. I know. I kind of. I've been getting that question with some frequency. Well, and it's not our deal. It's like, why dissolves disappeared from other films? It's always they're so beautiful. By the way, did you catch the New York Times article? I thought that was so lovely.
He wrote about his dissolves, yeah.
But you did in other movies though too. It wasn't just a message.
Going back to Citizen Cruz, my first feature, we've always dissolved. And wiped. And wipes.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the article on wipes.
and in Sideways, there's the times with split screens.
Yeah, Kevin, you can't wait to do another split screen.
Yeah, it's been fun. This is a movie that we're about to hit the Christmas break, essentially. It's people like to put labels or genres or categorize movies.
Christmas movie.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about, because I've seen people referring to it as that. Is that too reductive for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Christmas is important in it, though. I don't know that. I think it's important that it's Christmas, though. But I'm calling it a Christmas movie, maybe it's but it's important. It's Christmas, though. I think. I'm going to leave it at that. No, I just think that it's
I don't want to project a genre, you know, a western or a thriller. Like, great, awesome, Christmas movie. Maybe I shouldn't reject it.
No, I don't necessarily the genre thing, but I do think that it's important that it's Christmas. A weird distinction. Is that a bullshit distinction? Because I think that, I mean, it's a story about selflessness. People making sacrifice and giving of themselves, and it's an important, you know, the story of our Lord Jesus Christ. His arrival in the world. And, you know, I mean, it's the spirit of it is important for the thing. And it's the depths of winter, and these guys facing his mortality in some ways. And there's mortality, and there's rebirth, and there's all these things that feel like they're tied to Christmas. Okay, cool.
One last question from me, and then we'll close with a few from the audience. There is a list of movies. There's the Scorsese De Niro movies. There's the Scorsese DiCaprio movies. There are a number of collaborations that people just can't get enough of, and every one of them, you know, people are excited for. This is number 2 for you guys. Can we look forward to number 3?
Hi.
We like to think it's like Kurosawa and Mifune.
That's right.
I'm Mifune.
I think it's more like Antonioni and Monica Vitti.
Ooh, nice. All right. Yeah, I'll do anything he wants to do.
That's exciting. That's great. All right, let's go to the audience.
The idea that Paul Hunneman would be a professor of ancient civilizations, that appealed to me. I was 4 years of Latin at my all-boys Jesuit high school. It was my best subject. Happened to speak some Greek as well, not ancient Greek, but demonic Greek. Like the classics.
Right, and it's also this guy's clinging to all those classic values.
Hey, have you read Mary Beard? He just
Great, right?
interviewed Mary Beard.
I have a podcast, believe it or not, and we actually interviewed her. She was amazing.
What's the name?
Did you go to Brown?
I just got accepted today.
Right on! Right on! That's awesome. That's awesome. Are you going to study that at Brown? My son just went to Brown, and he studied Greek there. He loved it. Said it was really good. Yeah. He gave me a Greek phrase to say the night before I had to say it the next day. And I don't think I've ever been so fucking panicked in my life. Just to have to say this ancient Greek phrase. And I think you can tell that I'm like, the Greek's coming up.
I showed it in Greece about a month ago.
Yeah.
And the whole film is subtitled, except that line.
Okay, let's go. Here, please. Yes.
Hi, my name is Lon. What was the process for creating, was there like a specific writing process for creating the end school, specifically penis cancer?
Wait a minute, what? So
specific. I was wondering if there's like a specific process that you guys use.
Oh, the insults are so specific to build to penis cancer. How did you do it?
We just recited what was in the screenplay.
Yeah, I mean,
So I'm glad you like the
yeah,
penis cancer.
yeah.
Good line.
Here you go.
Hello, my name is Kalina. Alexander, your films always feel so warm and have such a strong emotional through line. There's something that feels so classic about them. So Alexander, as a storyteller, and Paul, as an actor, what are elements in the work that you seek out that draw you to projects like this, while the adaptations of superhero films, the big blockbusters, what are you talking about?
What a finely worded question.
Very finely worded. It's not like I haven't been in a superhero movie. I've been in stuff like that too. I mean, I enjoy stuff like that. It's not like I don't like stuff like that. I mean, this doesn't happen very often. So you know when you see it, you know, I mean, it doesn't happen very often. I've been lucky that I've had the opportunity with you twice, and I think about Tamara's movie, Jenkins' movie.
Private Life.
Private Life, which is a great movie. So I'm lucky that they come along. I definitely want a story that keeps me turning the pages. Because literally I can tell I don't want to do something if I'm just like, oh my God, if it's labor to turn the pages. I want to read a story that's exciting, or whatever, or human, and
My main criterion is I'd like to make movies where the story could conceivably happen in real life and is free of movie contrivances.
All right, sir, way in the back. I think, yeah.
Thank you. I noticed that the film, not only does it take place in 1970, but the film had a feel of a very 1970, late 60s, early 70s film. And I was wondering if there was any deliberate thought into that. You mentioned Mike Nichols as a favorite director of yours, or Alan Jacobula. I've noticed a lot of that in the film, that it had the feel of not just being set in 1970, but almost a movie you could get in 1970. And I was wondering if there was any thought to that.
Well, the answer is yes. When it came time to make this, my first period film, at some point, after the script was written, I think, before shooting, I just thought, wouldn't it be groovy to try to make it look like a movie, not only set in 1970, but that it kind of looks and sounds like a movie made then.
Yes.
And so that's the delightful parlor trick challenge I gave my collaborators and myself. And I think it helped the aesthetic somewhat. I accuse a lot of contemporary period films of being a little bit cartoony in their sense of period. And I really wanted to avoid that. And so I told the cinematographer and the production designer and the costume designer, we're not making a period film, we're making a contemporary film, pretending we're working in 1970. And fortunately, but more than that, that sounds cute and everything, but more than that, the great production designer who has the same aesthetic I do with production design, at least for movies like this, that all the sets and locations should look as though there had never been a production designer there. Like no unnecessary flourishes. But then the costume design, extras casting, finding 150 boys with the right hair.
those kids, none of those kids were wearing a wig.
Finding the right cars. And then of course on a technical level, getting period lenses and doing the right processing.
Even your logo at the very beginning,
Yes.
the
Say that again?
studio logo.
Yeah. And
That's
the R rating and coming up with the Focus Teachers logo.
Yeah.
And it's in mono. There are no sounds, no Atmos, I think they call it.
That's right. One last question, and we are gonna go to just right here. Yeah. Yes, the one that's going like this. Yes.
Teacher, and I guess my question is, so you get this script, this pilot script from, is it David Cummings, is the writer? What, aside from the fact that it's set in a boarding school, what made you be like, oh God, I gotta work with this guy?
It was well written.
Yeah. Just that? Okay.
Time for one more.